I've sent you the world's best query. You're interested in me, so you're evaluating. You're getting 10 pages instead of 50. Let's start there. What can you learn in 10 pages that's preferable to the 50?
So I think it's general, just your prose style. You know, because I look at your sample to see what the prose style is like. So if the pitch interests me and I think, oh, cool, and then the author interests me, then I'll look at the 10 pages and I'll be like, okay, cool, you know, they've got a good style, you know, and so then I'll ask for the full, because I'll know, you know, I need to, or, you know, then I'll ask for maybe 50 pages, or I'll ask for the full, because I was speaking to someone, an author, and I was asking her, actually, I said, does it make sense for me to ask for the partial to not get your hopes up too much, you know? And I kind of did an informal poll amongst authors that I know that I could chat with nuance about, not necessarily online. And it seemed like the consensus was, yes, when you ask for the partial, there's less intensity to that. There's this feeling of like, okay, they're interested, but not necessarily, you know, I'm not checking my email every hour. Whereas I know I'm very, being a former author myself, a querying author myself, I'm very keenly aware of the power agents hold over the submissions box and the power our responses can have. And so I try to be as kind and as clear and as vague as possible, so that, you know, an author doesn't get the, you know, intense hopes up.
Well, what happens when you read the end of my amazing 10 pages? Like, what? No, I need more. I need more right this moment, and you don't have it. How quickly do I need to send it to you if you ask for additional after those 10 pages?
I mean, you can take your time. Ideally, you'd have it if it was that amazing in the first 10 pages. I would imagine the rest of it was pretty polished. But you know, if you kind of, you know, you sent your queries out and then you're like, wait, you know, I wasn't quite, you know, another beta reader came back to me and like, there's some changes I need to make. You know, you can take a week or two and kind of polish up and do that last anxiety riddled revision. And that would be totally fine. There's no rush on our end, basically, unless an offer is on the table, and then things change a lot. But yeah.
No, I like to wait until after I've hit send to find that typo and then just ruin my week. Like, no, what did I do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you should know that typos don't. There was a lot of, I think in the beginning of, I guess, Twitter for the best example, you know, there was kind of this rush for agents to fill that void of questions, you know, the void that authors all had all these questions about. And so we, you know, there was a lot of sort of like kind of canned responses, things like, oh yeah, like, you know, watch out for those typos and, you know, clean up that manuscript and things like that. And I think it went a little overboard in making, you know, those authors that are basically, we were looking for the author to do the work and do the research before they query. But the authors that have already done all the work and done all the research and then sending out those queries, those are the ones that are the most anxious. And so they catch the typo and they think, oh, I'm going to be black holed, you know, like never, you know, I'm going to be blacklisted. Like they're never going to read me ever again. And the reality is if you're that anxious about the one typo, you're probably in a really good position.
Let me ask this, and this is one I'm guilty of, although not for a long time. What if I send you my manuscript and then a couple of days go by and I do get an amazing bit of feedback or some changes that I can make, and then I send it to you again? Does that send the signal that I'm not confident in my work and that, whoa, let me see if it wait till you send the third version, because that'll be the best version? Or does that make you more interested, or is it does it not have an impact in either way?
For me, not anymore. I think this is actually a question that I'd be curious to hear what newer agents say versus older agents, or more experienced agents, because, you know, as I grow and get further on in my career, I've come to realize that it's, you know, it's not important. You know, if you feel that you have a couple more revisions in you and you want to send them to me, I mean, yes, don't send them in, like, don't fix like one line and then send that updated manuscript. But if there was, you know, a scene that you wanted to adjust, and the agent's still sitting on your manuscript, feel free to say, hey, like, I updated this, like, would you want to see the new one? Because, the reality is if an agent's asked for your full manuscript, they're interested in it. And if you're doing work on it, manuscripts are never finished. Now, that being the case, you can't do that with a query letter because you don't want to like overflow our inbox. But with a full manuscript, if an agent's asked for the full manuscript, think of it as the opening of a conversation. And, you can kind of reach out to let them know, hey, I won this award for the first chapter. Hey, I did, got this feedback from another agent and I revised based off that feedback. Hey, I have an offer. Like that's the key one. And if that helps to make you feel a little more comfortable reaching out to them, I think that is. Newer agents might be a little bit more, and this, again, it's all individual, but I think that newer agents tend to be a little bit more hard line about their boundaries because they're still figuring them out.
Okay, well, here's a fun question. Let's say that you check your inbox and you've got the initial query that I sent you, and then the 3 updates I've sent you since within 24 hours. At that point, do you even read the manuscript sample, or is it just no? Stop.
Then you're getting into something which is about, the client personality, right? Like, if you send me a query and I ask for the full, and then within 24 hours you send me 3 more updates, that's going to signal to me that that's the kind of client you're going to be. And I would have to just really, really, really love, think that I could get a really major deal for that project because, I'm going to have to manage you as a client. So, and it's not that, there's plenty of authors like that, but I have a small list and to me, it's important that I'm able to manage my clients. And if I can't manage someone, if one client's taking up all my attention, then that's not going to be beneficial for my other clients. So I would probably just, give it a week or 2 and then probably just politely pass on your manuscript.
Well, by that time, I'll have sent you 18 or 20 pages. So, okay, let's say that you read the 10 pages, then you request the full. Now we're getting warm, and you like the full. You're interested. What happens next?
There'll be a couple of things. If I really like the full, I'll probably just reach out and say, hey, let's schedule a phone call. If I've read the full, at this point in my career, if I've read the full, I'm pretty much on the verge of offering you representation. It means that I have a vision for it. It means that, I guess, that's a good way. I'll rewind a little bit. So when I'm reading your manuscript, part of the reason it takes us so long to get back to you on these full manuscripts, because it's not like reading a book. It's not, when I pick up a manuscript, I'm not sitting down like we talked about your friend there reading Harry Potter in 2 days. Like I do that with books often, but when I sit down to read a potential client manuscript, I'm actually going through it with a vision for, okay, this fits this genre, this fits this particular age group. Okay, so now that and this is my vision for how I'm gonna take it forward. Like I really think that I could pitch it as the next XYZ, or I know the editors that would be perfect for this, or even if I don't know the editors particularly because there's a lot of turnover, I know the imprints that would really like this book. I can visualize this being on Bookstagram or at the book subscriptions, or on the shelf at Barnes and Noble, and so that's happening while I'm reading the manuscript. But also what's happening is but it needs these changes, the voice is a little too heavy for the age, or, this scene, this character doesn't need to die, or this character maybe should die, or, and so what I'm doing is I'm reading through a manuscript, developing a vision for it. And if at the end, when I'm finished, if my vision is clear, then I 100% will probably be offering you representation. If my vision is cloudy and I'm not sure, I might sit on it for a little bit. And then I might do think about you as an author, think about, do I want to take you on? And potentially talk about like things like maybe next projects, or how, or if my vision's a little cloudy but I really like the author, and then they get an offer of representation, I would probably step aside because, okay, like I wouldn't necessarily be the right agent. But if they don't get an offer of representation, I might reach out to them and have an honest conversation about that and talk about like, what else are you writing? Like, how else can we make this work? What are your vision, and things like that.
Gotcha. So, okay, so in that case, as you're reading the manuscript, you're not reading for fun. It's business. It's what am I going to do with this? Are you reading to where you get to a stopping point? If it's the world's greatest story and you've never been so entertained, but there's absolutely no one you could think of that might actually want it, does that just, you send me a nice note that says, man, I loved your book. Sorry, it's never going to sell. Have a nice life. Or what happens?
No, I'm very clear about that. Just because I don't have a vision for it does not mean that it couldn't sell. I mean, there's been so many agents that are wrong, editors too, like you hear the Cinderella stories, right? That, so-and-so got 20 rejections before their book hit. I mean, those happen, and so when I read something and I think it's really good, I'll ask one of my colleagues if they're interested, or I'll send a very nice note and tell them, I'll be very clear. I'll say, I think this has a ton of potential. I think, you as a writer have a gift. I don't have a clear vision for it, and I wouldn't know what to do with it. And so I wouldn't be the right agent. And sometimes what's nice about those notes is sometimes those authors will come back to me with their next project like a year later. And this has happened a year later, and I'll end up signing them because their next project is much tighter, much more focused, like right within a genre, something like that.